What's up, you guys? Sean Ross Sapp, Fightful here with a name you know. How could you not know him? You've seen him literally everywhere. ECW, WCW, WWE, TNA. You saw him recently on Impact, but coming soon, perhaps, to MLW. We got Raven back here. How you doing, man?
Good. How you doing? I'm trying to adjust my camera because I'm having to do this on my phone because my mouse died. Like
Yeah.
the Wi-Fi mouse, and so the mouse died, and so I got the phone contrapted. So, but it's giving me like some lower view from below.
Yeah.
So I look like feeling like I'm being very pretentious up here. Or
I
at least
love
that's
it.
how it looks on the little screen.
I mean, I would say that your character sometimes came off as pretentious, so maybe it's just
Oh
that.
yeah, absolutely.
So
Yeah,
maybe it's
absolutely.
that. I was telling you before we went on the air, I'm doing like an ECW on TNN rewatch. I was able to get this Blu-ray that had the actual TV versions of this, so I'm seeing the hotline plugs and all that stuff, and I'm like, damn. If that's how I promoted like my scoops, I would get destroyed these days. They were like, guess who's having sex with who in WCW? I was like, my God. Like, did you ever get hit up by anybody at ECW? Like, what kind of scoops you got for the hotline?
No, no, they just did that themselves. Yeah. Like, so you're saying that that scoop would be bad or would be good now?
I would get torn to shreds if I don't post stuff about people's private lives. Like, I don't, I butt out of that.
Because of the woke scene, you're saying?
I mean, I guess if you want to call it that. But I mean,
Yeah. Well, no,
it's,
I'm a liberal, so but some of the woke stuff's gone a little too far, and I'm a liberal, so.
sure. But, like,
But no, I thought that's what you meant by saying so and so is having sex with so and so, like, because
no, I was just
that's what I was
shocked.
told.
I was shocked because, like, of course I remember Mean Gene and all that, but I guess I wasn't paying as much attention to the ECW hotline stuff. Like, they were really laying it in. They're like, and it's funny because back then every week somebody was jumping ship, so every week it's guess who's leaving WCW. And I was like, oh shit, who
Well, yeah,
was it?
but it's probably like, those things are so famous for bait and switches. Like, I'm not saying we did that, but I don't know. But, like, but I could see who's having sex with who, and it's the married couple.
Yeah, that's also true. That is also true. Well, you'll head back to the ECW arena, which you've been to, I'm sure, plenty of times since ECW shut down. But like back with MLW, how's that feeling for you? Because I mean, MLW, you did a lot of really really cool stuff there in between some of your other runs.
Yeah, I like it. I like going back for MLW because they always aspired to be ECW like,
Yeah.
and they aspired for it, but they didn't, but they weren't like some of the other aspirants where they were claiming to be the new,
Yeah.
you know. So I like that. I always like that about them, that they didn't overpress their own, overpress their own coverage. You know what I mean? Like they didn't outkick the coverage. They knew what they were, and they didn't have to over brag about it.
Yeah.
Overhype it. And so I like working for them, and I'm really glad I got to go back because I always liked Court, and I always felt like I mentored, like not that I mentored him, but I always felt like that I gave him, I helped him a little bit, and he's always said that, so that's probably where I got it from. But I like working for people that have a knowledge and a joy for my character, which he really does. Paulie really did, but other people didn't, and so I really love working for Court, and I really like what we're doing, which I don't know how much I'm allowed to say,
Not much.
because my appearances are going to be a surprise, or well, I guess it's not a surprise anymore, but I
You're
mean,
doing media for it, right?
yeah, yeah, that's what I was wondering. I was like, that's kind of, I thought I was, but how I'm going to appear, I suppose I can't really talk about, and but it's really good. I mean, the stuff we shot was really, really good. I mean, that's not just hyperbole because I'm not, I'm, I can embellish to to an extent, but I'm not going to lie and just say things that aren't true because just to get ratings. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm with all ego aside, they really did some cool shit with me.
Yeah. And I mean, the stuff that you did in the initial run was one of the first things that put MLW on my radar. Like, you had this feud with CM Punk. I had no clue who CM Punk was, like whatsoever. And then I saw how you two played off of one another, and I was like, okay, this is something that I need to be watching. How do you remember like that even being pitched to you? Did you know him ahead of that? I mean, obviously this spanned multiple promotions.
I don't. Okay, I know I did the feud with him in Ring of Honor.
Yes.
But I don't know where my MLW thing with him was before, after, or during, because it all jumbles together. But after 35 years in the business, it's the linear timeline isn't pressed exactly in my mind. Especially
Sure.
with the independents. I mean, I know my territory, lineage, where I went from one company to the next, but the independents. Yeah, that's I don't even know which period it was.
I remember
before TNA, after TNA.
I was very confused. It was before TNA, but it kind of blended in because it started in ROH. Then a couple months later, it led into MLW. Then right at the end of MLW, I'm hearing about these matches you guys have. Then you pop up on TNA and you're teaming with each other.
Yeah. Okay, that's kind of what I thought happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's funny is at the time, Punk thought he was the greatest worker in the world, and he wasn't. But then, not ironically, but rather tremendously, he became the greatest worker in the business.
Yeah.
Like, I don't follow it anymore. I don't watch shows, but I've seen enough stuff like at watch parties. When the guest, the paid guest or whatever, stuff like that. That when Punk was in his WWE run, I saw some of that, and he was the best guy, the best worker in the business. Like, I don't know if he still is, but I always loved the fact that he really thought he was, which you have to. You have to have that kind of ego to be able to push yourself, and that he actually fulfilled it. Because I've talked to a lot of guys that thought they were the best worker in the business, and you never heard from him again. I always thought that was cool.
Yeah. We have seen you recently on Impact. You filmed something with Reese. Like, I didn't ever expect to see Reese back in pro wrestling, but I mean, Impact brought in the Demon for a shot too. Like, how does this come about? How does this get pitched to you to do something with a former Flock member like Reese?
Yeah, it basically got pitched to me exactly what you saw. They said, they were in Atlanta. I think I'm on a short list to be a road agent there.
Okay.
But I think they're all booked up with they got too many of them as it is. That's part of the problem. There's too many talents for the spots there are.
Yeah.
And in all the companies. But so anyway, so they just give me the Hall of Fame gig, which is really cool. And then they were whenever they're in Atlanta, I guess they try and give me a booking, out of respect. And it's good for it's good to for me to show up on. They like having guys show up on the TV that you don't normally see.
Yeah.
And plus, like I said, I think I'm on a short list for a road agent. And if I'm not, I'm not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure I am. And it's just there's so many road agents now. Everyone's thinking, like, hey, what do I do after my career? Oh, agent. And so those jobs are few and far between. But luckily I'm okay financially, so I'm not really worried about it. But I lost my whole train of thought.
Is that something that you'd be interested in doing? Like, is agenting something?
Yeah, it wasn't for a long time. Like, I didn't want an agent. I would have, I wouldn't mind being an assistant booker, but I didn't want to be an agent. And then after a while, I started thinking, well, I really want to pass on my knowledge. What better way than to be an agent? And plus, it's a new era of guys, so there's a respect there that wasn't that. As a person, I irritated a lot of people. I was a bit of an asshole, so a lot of people probably wouldn't, my generation wouldn't be so, you know, they don't realize that I've grown and changed as a person, and so they probably think I'm still an asshole. So, but the younger guys don't know whether I was an asshole or not, or care, and they just think, wow, Raven was cool. You know what I mean? So, you know, so it's fun, and I really do want to pass on my knowledge. You know, to people who want to learn. If I was working with my own age group, my own peers, not peers, but my people from my generation, they they're not into learning anymore. You know what I mean? They've learned as much as they're going to learn to a certain extent, and they're done learning, which I can respect to an extent. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of
I always
course.
try to improve. I always try to improve, like always. But for the most part, guys reach a certain level of talent, and they're like, that's about all I'm going to learn. That's about all the work I'm going to put into learning, and now I'm just going to reap the benefits, which is fine.
So,
But I like the attitude, the hunger of the younger guys to want to learn.
and I mean, you worked with a lot of younger guys in the flock that Reese was a part of. Was there anybody like maybe pitched for the flock that didn't end up happening, or somebody that you wanted that didn't end up happening?
Yeah, the whole flock. I wanted all new guys. I wanted all guys that nobody had ever seen before because I didn't want a bunch of reruns. I didn't want
Yeah.
retreads. And but I didn't get what I wanted. I did get one sick boy,
Yeah.
and he really stood out because he was talented. Lodi too.
He's
He
still
really stood
wrestling.
out.
He's still wrestling.
Yeah,
He
no,
looks great.
he looks better shape than he did back then.
Yeah.
He's amazing. He's timeless,
Yeah.
ageless. No, ageless, not timeless. He
So,
Go ahead.
so yeah, like I mean, we saw some people like Billy Kidman. We had never really seen him do much of anything except for get his ass beat on TV before the flock. Like, was that somebody that you were like, okay, well, maybe not brand new, but new enough to where he
Yeah,
doesn't have an established run?
yeah, no, that was cool. Reese, I wasn't so jazzed upon because he had just done the Yeti thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, but I liked him because he was a giant. Hammer, I wasn't Hammer. I wasn't asking for Hammer. But DDP asked me to take him, and Hammer got a great look to him, but I didn't want guys who were being retreaded. I mean, he worked out fine. It worked out great. But I wanted guys like Sick Boy Lodi. Saturn I wanted because Saturn was my boy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, and he did work out for the most part. I mean, because like Riggs, I loved hanging out with. You know what I mean? And Riggs
Great
is my
guy.
boy, and Riggs can work. But I didn't want guys like him. But at least we, because like I said, I didn't want reruns. But at least retreads. But at least we got to do a way where we initiated him into the flock, and he wasn't just all of a sudden one day he's a new guy. You know what I mean? I always thought that if they want to retread a guy, take him off TV for a year.
Yeah.
Let him sit home, pay him to sit home, and then bring him back completely different.
So
The way we got Horace Hogan in the flock, funny story. Jimmy Hart comes up to me and goes, "Hey, Hogan was wondering if you'd put his nephew in the flock." I'm like, sure, anything
yeah.
for Hogan. You know what I mean? What are you going to say? No. What am I going to say? No. You know. So then the Rib and me and Jericho and Conan used to hang out, and we called ourselves the triumvirate of useless information.
Oh
But,
yeah.
because we were all trivia marks. But the funny thing was, the running gag became, "Hey, did you know that Horace Hogan was Hulk's nephew?" I'm like, I had no idea.
I think there was an expanded story that kind of could have been told there too. That there he was right there with his uncle on top of the world, and here he is with you guys who are the misfits of the company. And I really loved the approach. It was all different sizes, shapes, like even personalities and stuff involved. And it's one of those things where it felt like TNA Impact tried to redo that multiple times, like with the Gathering, with Serotonin, with anything that they could. What were your feelings on that? Because, I mean, any stable that you were a part of would sort of be compared to that, obviously.
See, I like having a stable. I mean,
Yeah.
I had the Raven's Nest in ECW before that.
Yes.
I like having a stable for a couple of reasons. One, it gives me more room for creativity, with finishes and stuff because I have more people to operate with. I like it because then I don't have to. I can work smart, not harder. I can work smarter and take less bumps and make people come to finally get me, to make it mean something when they finally get a hold of me. They have to go through a maze, a gauntlet of freaks and geeks,
Yeah.
and so I like it for those reasons. Also, I like directing traffic, like like when they're taking somebody, like when do a run in on DDP's diamond cutting all of them. I love setting up the run in, the playing the mastermind behind. He goes and then he feeds in this way. Obviously Page put his own spin on it too, and the flock had their own opinions too. But I like being, in that role as, as the flight director. Who's
Yes.
flying this way, who's flying that way.
So you had mentioned working smarter, not harder. I don't think you've had a match in a few years. Have you had your last match, or is that something you're still open to?
No, I've been working off and on until I had my knees replaced.
Yeah.
I had them replaced last year, and once they're healed up completely, and my shoulder is healed up completely, I got to get my shoulder replaced. I had the left shoulder replaced in 2013. I got to get the right shoulder replaced in next at the end, sometime in this year, hopefully in the fall. And then once that's healed, I'll probably still do tags because that's what I've been doing.
Yeah.
Because I work like I don't like being a baby face, but on the indies I have to be
Of course.
because the fans come to see the stars, so it's not fair, and it's not fair to just turn yourself to make them boo you even though they don't want to.
Yeah.
That's kind of especially for a couple hundred people, it's just not worth the. But as a baby face, I can tag with somebody. I come in on the shine, beat the guy up. I don't get touched. Then I tag my partner and he gets beat up. He makes the hot tag to me. I bump the other guys and go right to the finish. So I don't have to take any bumps. But nobody knows because nobody realizes I'm not bumping because the way the storyline is set up,
Yeah.
So, I mean, look at the Rock and Roll Express. Ricky bumped all the time and Robert just came and got the hot tag. And instead of doing a bunch of false finishes, which everybody does anyway, I just go right to the finish. And I don't even use my finish, the Raven effect, the DDT, because of the bumping in it,
Yeah.
because of my shoulder. And what I would do is I would just do the drop to hold on the chair,
Yes.
which gets the same pop. And then I'd either let my partner do the DDT because he's a local guy and he gets the rub, or I would just pin the guy after
Smart.
the drop to hold on the chair, and that way, nobody's going, oh, we didn't get the DDT, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
So all the bases are covered. It's all psychology. I mean, if you know how to work smart, you don't have to work as hard, and like you can have a career for forever. You know what I mean? If you work as a babyface in tags.
How did you, I guess, maybe perfect your DDT or separate it? Because it's always you and Jake. Like you two are the ones that are brought up in that conversation.
Well, when I did it right and not lazy, I mean, there's a lot of where I'm taking it lazy and I'm just dropping,
Sure.
and but there's a lot. But when I do it right, the ones that look the best, my legs go like this. I drop. I hit when I go to my back. When I go to bump, I kick my legs up straight, so they're at a 90-degree angle to my hips.
Yes.
Everything to my stomach, to my hips, whatever. And so it looks more sudden because it looks like you're going poof. And so it gives it that sudden. And plus, I try and drop as quick. Like I try and drop as quick as I can too. And it's the suddenness that makes it look so good, because a lot of guys, they just fall back, or they and it doesn't. And when I'm being lazy, my legs don't go straight up. You know what I mean? When I'm being lazy, they just land like everybody else's. But when I'm doing it right, I think it looks pretty cool, and that's why I chose it, because I knew a lot of guys use it as a high spot, but I was like, well, when I do it, I'm going to do it so it looks like a finish and make it a finish.
Yeah.
And you can do it to anybody. That's part of having a finish. You got to be able to do it, to give it to anybody. That's why like Candido used to power bomb guys off the top rope, which first of all is incredibly dangerous, but secondly, you can't do it to about 5 people, back then, because nobody was going to take it.
I remember when he was in WWF, he didn't do it, but he had to take it from Marty Jannetty at Survivor Series. And I remember the first time I saw it, I watched his head bounce off the mat because, like, how's he going to protect himself?
Yeah.
Like, how can he do that? I did a feature a while back with Rhino where he talked about his favorite gores, and he had even said that one of his favorites was one that he didn't hit, which was on you through the shopping cart.
Yeah.
Do you remember like how that spot came about? Like that was just such a brilliant idea.
I wanted to use the shopping cart, and I was going to pick it up over my head and have him come to be in the ring and come between the second and third rope like he's coming to grab me, and I was going to smash him in the head.
Yeah.
Except then I realized I couldn't pick the thing up over my head because it was too clumsy.
Yeah.
And it was going to look stupid. So I said, why don't we switch it, Rhino, and you pick it up, and then I'll go to feed you through the second and third rope, bang me in the head, we'll throw it in the ring. And then I think he said, have you drop toe hold me on it, which I don't know if that came before or after. And then he goes, he comes up with great ideas, and he goes, let me go to gore you, and you move, and I'll go into the shopping cart. I'm like, you can't fit in there. I don't know. I still don't know how he fit in there. It's like it's a miracle because I thought for sure he was going to hit it and just bounce back because his shoulders weren't going to fit inside it. But he squished himself in there and did it, and I love that spot, man.
A lot of wrestlers today don't know you spent time in All Japan, and we're talking like working Misawa, Giant Baba, people like that. Years before a lot of people knew about you in the States. What was that experience like? I mean, I know it was, I don't want to say a short tour, but I mean, man, that's quite an experience to get in.
Yeah, it was 3 weeks. And I was working in Portland Wrestling at the time, and they called me up and asked me to do it, and I said sure. But I've never been a big fan of the Japan style because it's not about, at least it wasn't about plots and and storytelling. It was more about just athleticism. And I got in it for the storytelling, and so they asked me. Bobby actually even asked me to come back at the end of the tour when he was paying me, and then I never followed up on it because I was like, yeah, I don't want to, as long as I had a job here, I didn't care.
Yeah.
Although I ended up going back like 5 times for 5 more different companies.
Yeah.
Like like people would say, hey, here's a show, we got one shot, or 3-day shows or whatever. Because 3 weeks was just too long for me anyway,
You worked Dreamer over in Japan at least once. I remember hearing about that. I think Tommy talked about that. But, I mean, it's just like, it's so wild. It's like you're over there and it's Giant Baba and you're teaming with Stan Hansen. And they're like, here's Kenta Kobashi. And that was like in 1990 or something. It was well before a lot of that. But something else that I saw, because I was like, let me see if there's anything like that.
You know what's funny,
No, go ahead.
Real quick before you say that, I saw Bobby Fulton works for Billy Corgan for the NWA, which I was at recently. He works. I'm a road agent there.
Yeah.
And I forgot to say, I'm a road agent for NWA, so I do that as well. But I missed the whole last year because of my knee surgeries. But I just did another one like a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
But Bobby Fulton was there, and Jody Malenko showed up just to say hi because he lives in Tampa.
Yeah.
And so the 3 of us were all on that same tour that I was on in All Japan.
That's wild. That is so wild.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Yeah. And another thing crazy that I saw that I had no idea about, and I was like, let me poke around, do a little more research. You wrestled a dark match against Koko Beware later that year for WWF. I didn't even know that happened.
Yeah, I got off the gas, and I shrunk down to about 210, and I was just too small for him at the time,
Isn't that wild that 210 is too small? That is technically a UFC heavyweight right now. Anything above 205 is a UFC heavyweight now.
Yeah, no, actually, let me say, I was probably about 215 because I never really got. Yeah. I started. To be honest, I was a really skinny kid with love handles. So I had a terrible build. I was like 157 pounds when I graduated. 160 pounds when I graduated high school. Like I wrestled at 157, and I didn't cut any weight. And so so years of lifting and years of taking gas, and I got to the point where I never really got below 215, even if I was off the gas.
Yeah.
And I mean now I'm 238, but that's you get older, you thicken out.
Sure.
But back then I was just way too small. The 1-2-3 kid came in I think he had a tryout like the same weekend or something, or maybe it was a different show. Might have been a different whatever, but he was different because he was unique because he was a high flyer. But I was like the land of the giants, man. I was dwarfed by everybody. Now I'm a normal size. Now the normal size is probably 215 anyway.
Yeah, I mean it's very common. I think that MMA has kind of helped that because you see that you see what combat sports athletes look like by and large, and it's
I also think that bigger guys don't have the affinity to get in the business anymore. Like when the Road Warriors were doing it, everybody wanted to be a Road Warrior.
yeah, that's fair.
But now everybody wants to be a Shawn Michaels or a Bret Hart, or actually now they want to be a CM Punker, or similar.
But
Yeah.
listen, tune in MLW every week. Tune into Raven's show on MLW Radio as well. That's out there. Anything else you want to put over?
No, actually it's Spreaker Radio, but same
Spreaker.
thing.
My bad.
Yeah, but
To hell with
no,
MLW Radio.
if you're not watching MLW, watch it because it's gotten really, really good. Like I really like when I was watching the matches at the show.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed them, and if you make me enjoy matches, then you're doing the right thing because I'm picky. I'm a picky bastard.
There you go. Raven, thank you so much for the time. Until next time, guys, we're out.
Thanks, man.
You hear me talk about NordVPN.com/Fightful a lot. It's because I use it every single day. You can listen or watch your favorite shows abroad, whether you're in the States like me and you want to watch shows from the UK or Australia, or you're just traveling and you want access to your local things. You can shield your data from snoops and criminals. You can safely listen to your shows, stream shows, browse in complete privacy by shielding your IP address. You can change your virtual location with just one click. Protect yourself on public Wi-Fi. That can be dangerous. People can get access to all of your stuff. Secure all the devices that you own. It's available on all major operating systems, and you can connect up to 6 devices separately with one subscription. 30-day money-back guarantee, 4 months free added on top of that deal. NordVPN.com/Fightful with 3 great tiers for you to enjoy.